What's up, everybody? Big Herc, getting down fresh out. You tuned into another edition of Prison Talk. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Let us know you support. We're trying to bring you guys as much real content as possible. And, it seems like at times they're unsubscribing some of you guys. So we want to make sure you guys are subscribed so we can keep it pushing. Anyway, we're still dealing with this situation. And I'm not going to say exactly what caused the situation, but you guys know what you're dealing with as far as with the self-quarantine. And I don't like to gloat or glamorize prison and the situations in there, because it's nothing to put on a high horse. It's nothing to make cool. But I'm telling you, man, this is exactly what they do when you're dealing with a lockdown in the pen. I've been on quite a few lockdowns, and usually a lockdown in the penitentiary happens whenever there's a riot on the yard, a CO gets assaulted, maybe there's a sit-in, the inmates, refuse to leave their cells. They're like, we're just gonna lock it down because of conditions have been so counterproductive that they feel it's not worth them even going out of the cell. So you only can imagine what would make a person want to just say, hey, I'm gonna lock myself down. But anyways, there's phases when dealing with a lockdown. I want to say one of the longest lockdowns I dealt with was I want to say over 90 days or close to 90 days, over 90, maybe over 90 days. And it affects you in phases, like I said. The first phase, and on your typical lockdown, you might have a cellie if you have a two-man cell. I've been on lockdowns with cellies, and I've been on lockdowns by myself. And on one particular lockdown, when I was by myself, due to which was the effect of there having been a riot on the yard previously. What initially happens is the institution's locked down. There's like almost like a radio silent situation. It's a blackout. No TVs. There's really no communication going on. It's just quiet. They don't even tell you. They just lock it down. And I think they have maybe 24 hours to get you, your first meal, or 12 hours before you get like a sack lunch or something, because the staff has pretty much taken over usage of all the kitchen duties. So you're locked down. You really don't know what's going on unless you previously heard what was the cause of the lockdown. So you're sitting there, you're thinking, like, how long is this gonna last? Hopefully you have some food in your locker so that you can survive and make do with meals in between whatever they give you. You have some books maybe you've been meaning to read, so you might read those books and kind of just listen to your little music and try to keep your mind preoccupied. The first day, the first week, you got your little workout routine. You figure, hey, I'm gonna work out in the cell. And really, depending on how big the cell is, I mean, the cells in Lompoc were smaller than my bathroom, so you're doing a push-up, and you're almost underneath the bunk to a degree, because the bunk is in your walkway, and the sink and the toilet is almost where your foot is. So you don't have a lot of room. So maybe you're doing push-ups, maybe you're doing triceps off the bars. You're getting sweaty, and then at the same time, if you're by yourself, you can do a bird bath in the shower in the sink, because you don't have a shower. You do a bird bath in the sink, and if you have a two-man cell, you're not doing too much of a working out because nobody wants to smell your ass. You know, nobody wants to deal with your sweat and stuff, and it's in that small confined area. And so your workout's a little bit more limited. Unless you have somebody you're really cool with, you're not doing too much sweating in the cell together, because it ain't happening. So you're reading, you're trying to space out your meals. You know, your food is your only pleasure. You know, I know a lot of you guys right now are eating out of stress. You're stress eaters. You know, depression eaters. You guys are eating stuff that you wouldn't normally eat, but this is the only way you could deal with this isolation type situation. That's like your first week, maybe your second week. You know, going into like your third week, you know, the workouts now becoming redundant. You know, you're working out, but you feel like you're not really getting a whole lot maybe from your workout because your movement's limited and your mind is like now on repetition to the point where things aren't really making a lot of sense, even though you're hoping that this, you know, lockdown ends soon. You done read a lot of the books that you had in your stash. Now maybe you're asking guys to share books with you, you know, so that you can read some stuff that they got. So you're trying to fish books. If you have a cell, you know, a lot of cells are closed metal doors, so you can't get nothing underneath the door. You're not sharing anything. So you're hit. If whatever you had on lockdown is what you're stuck with. So there's nothing to share. You start thinking about things that you enjoyed on the streets. The streets always pop back up, you know. You start having flashbacks of the streets. And, you know, your mind takes you to your most pleasurable moments on the street, whether that's hanging out at the beach, surfing, going hiking, swimming, you know, driving in your car. You know, you're thinking about all kind of stuff. You know, this is week 3, 4, 5. You know, you start getting into now 8 weeks, 9 weeks. You're kind of now you're trying to somehow get some conversation going. You're hollering through the vents. Hey, what up, man? Hey, what's going on down there? What up down there? You're trying to talk to anybody. You know, you're talking through the toilet. You're talking through the vents. Man, you're starving for conversation. I mean, even in isolation, even people who are in the hole, they want to talk to somebody. So you're trying to now hear a voice outside of your own, because the voices in your head, they've kind of played themselves. So now you're trying to get people outside of your head to communicate with, so you can start making sense of what's going on. And every day at 4 o'clock, they got a stand-up count. So, you know, you got to stand up for that count. And, you know, usually maybe an hour or two after that, they bring around a meal, a little sack lunch. You know, they say you're supposed to get, you know, 2 sack lunches and a hot. And after a while, if they feel like it, they maybe will give you a hot meal. If they've maybe sequestered some inmates to come work in the kitchen with them, because the staff is lazy. After a while, they don't want to be working in the kitchen. They're getting paid double time, whatever, triple time, but they are at a point where they don't want to keep doing all this stuff. They only came there to turn keys. They don't want to be cooking for inmates. Inmates can get a sack lunch with no mustard, no mayonnaise on a bologna sandwich that's dry and stale, old ass apple, and a little carton of milk. That's your lunch. There ain't nothing fancy to it. So you better hope you have condiments in your locker. So, you know, like I said, you're maybe getting a hot meal, but most likely not. You're sack lunched out, you know. And if you're resourceful, you might be lucky enough to somehow be able to cook with a stinger if you're in the state or in the feds, or, you know, you might be able to somehow do what we did. At one point, we had took like a bed sheet, ripped it up, and made it into like a little circular, almost like a burner, used the battery, sparked a fire onto that little circular pad of sheet, and we cooked some old ass bologna over it. So we had old ass bologna that we fried up, and we had to try to fan that through the vent, because if you get caught, with a fire in there, you can set off the fire alarms. So we try to blow that through the vent, and then we took that bologna, we chopped it up, and we put it in top ramen soup. That was a gourmet meal on lockdown. So that was like the height. If you were able to do that, I had a MacGyver celly on one lockdown, so he knew how to do it, but not everybody can do stuff like that. So that was on one of the lockdowns when I had a celly. But yeah, so like I said, you get past the 60 days, 90 days, and it's crazy, man, because you're just sitting there and you're thinking like, wow, and the guards aren't saying nothing. They don't tell you anything. They're, the lockdown, they do say something to you, because they bring you out for investigation. There's an investigation going on. They want to know, they have a sheet, just like they're going to tell you guys here. You got okay. Any symptoms? Okay. Who do you know has it? Okay. They want you telling everybody. So a lot of you guys out there, keep your mouth shut. If you're not feeling well, let them know. But as far as telling on each other, this is not the time. But that's what they do. They want you to tell, and they'll say like, "You mean to tell me you know nothing about what was going on? You're right next to one of the guys who was there. You don't know he's in the hospital." I don't. We seen you talking to him. I said, I don't know that guy. You mean to tell me? Your life could be in danger. I mean, well, shit, I'm gonna have to deal with it. I mean, they do every shakedown type tactic known to man to get you to somehow give up some info. And let me tell you why they're doing this investigation. Whether it's, like I said, if an officer got stabbed, a SEAL got stabbed, or somebody got killed on the yard, or there was a riot, or whatever the case may be, they're doing all this, and everybody watched you leave. So people are looking and seeing how much time did you spend in there. And if you spend a significant amount of time in the investigation room, you're probably a hot boy. So, here there's no way of knowing what you're doing when you're doing that. But that's one of the things that transpires is this investigation where they bring you into a room and they ask you these questions and you're handcuffed, and they do it to everybody, bring everybody out. And so that's like, I would say maybe phase 2, phase 3. Now, going into phase 4, past the 60 days, getting into like maybe 90 days, they go and the warden and his captain or lieutenant, they go and talk to the shot callers of all the different races in the prison to see if the lockdown comes off, what's going to be retaliation, or what's going to be the resolution, or what's going to be the next move. So they get all this stuff kind of like worked out before the lockdown even comes off, because they know all they got to do is talk to the representatives, and the representatives will talk to everybody else. So it's kind of like almost like a tier system. They don't have to tell everybody what the hell is going on, because they know that word will spread. And as soon as they unlock those doors, people will dart inside of each other's cells and talk, and it's going to be situated without them even having to do so. Just like out here, you guys going, telling people this or doing that, same thing, that you'll kind of like do whatever the office duties are for them so that they don't have to do it. And, based on that, and they'll say like, they might even holler that whoever the representative in the unit, hey, we're going to come off this thing. And so it'll be a green light that the lockdown's going to be coming off, and everybody be starting to get excited, banging on the doors. Oh, the lockdown's going to be over with. And so that's kind of like how it works. But it's a crazy process, man, this lockdown thing. And, your mental, man, the key is to stay spiritually strong. Some people maybe read the Bible. Some people read the Talmud. Some people read the Quran. Maybe you're a studier of Buddha, or maybe you're Native American, whatever the case may be. But you find something to keep your mental strong. For me, I read a lot of spiritual books and I would meditate. And I'll tell you, you know, a lot of people don't believe in out-of-body experiences, but during a lockdown, when I was actually by myself at one point, and it was probably well into like 90-something days, I recall meditating, and I was able to kind of clear my mind, because in order to really get on a high level of meditation, you have to basically empty out all your thoughts. You have to remove every thought, you know, and every emotion, and you have to just be at nothingness. I was able to do that, and I actually had an out-of-body experience. I was actually out of the prison, and I could feel myself like over the prison, kind of floating, like I was actually levitating, and I was on a trip, a natural trip, man, and it was crazy. And you know, I was only able to maintain that for a short period of time, because once I realized what my mind had did, my spirit, you know, my body was still in. Once I caught that, I instantly went back in my body. So I was like, damn, you know, and I wasn't able to do that again. It was hard because I was at that time by myself, and you know, if you have cellies, you can't do it because of just the close proximity of other energy. You have to be by yourself, and you have to be able to kind of isolate your energy field. And in prison, see, energy, you guys think it's a joke. A lot of you guys don't understand how it works, but in prison, there's a reason why it's not made out of wood. It's a reason, for one, the guys try to escape, and, you know, hazards, you know, guys making shanks out of wood and whatever. But two, cement traps energy. So the prison, as almost a catacomb for the living, your energy is trapped, and that energy can only move a certain way. And so you're limited as far as the vibrations you could send out. And this keeps this dark energy almost like encapsulated. So you can feel the vibes in there are so strong. I remember just, you know, certain people you walk by, you could feel it like, man, that dude is evil, man. You know, or, you know, that person right there, they're weird. You know, you could just feel the vibe. You can almost see a glow. And that's how powerful that thing is. But yeah, you know, when your energy is trapped like that, and you're in such a small confinement, it's a trip, man, because like I said, you guys at least have the ability to move around out here. You know, you can call your neighbor, you can, you know, maybe hang out with a family member and keep your mental strong. This is the perfect time to call your neighbor or go talk to them. The hell with calling, don't text, go talk, start talking. You know, you guys are so scary right now. I mean, just the way you're treating each other. Oh my God, you know, I seen somebody do this. Oh my, somebody snorted and they thought that this person, you thought that maybe they had, you know, spit on somebody, man, or they had passed out. I mean, it's so paranoid right now. And everybody's looking at everybody like, are you a carrier? It's almost like some weird movie type shit, man. For real, man, this is so paranoia right now. And, you know, I'm not saying people haven't died, people aren't getting sick, but damn, man, this is what you guys want. This is the fear that they're pushing you on, far as on this self-quarantine. Man, you guys better wake up, because, you know, a lockdown in prison is it's a tool. And that tool is used for a lot of different things. And it's basically the micro for the macro. And like I said, you know, lockdown can be a number of things, you know, riot, stabbing, you know, assault on a CO. But, you know, also a lockdown could be because maybe, you know, they started playing with the food, or they started doing something that was contrary to what people felt they were going to put up with. So it's a tool used to get people to bend a certain way, and then they know what your breaking point is. So if they know they can do certain things on a lockdown or self-quarantine to this point, and then at this point, shit starts happening, and then they'll lock it down, and then when they let it out, they said, okay, we already did a graph, and that graph shows exactly at this point is when everything went all bad. Same thing, man. So you know, get your mental right, stay mentally strong, and you know, hopefully this is not a 90-day quarantine, you know what I mean, a 90-day self-quarantine, because those 90-day lockdowns, like I say, you start getting into some mental challenges that a lot of you, I know you're not gonna be able to handle, especially with your kids at home. And it becomes challenging at that point. So get your mental right, and at the end of the day, coming out of this, hopefully you'll see a bigger picture, and you'll be able to somehow elevate yourself to the point where you won't be as blindsided for whatever comes next. Hey man, putting you up on game, trying to lace you up as much as possible. I'm not glamorizing any of this stuff. I'm not trying to say any of this is a joke. And I just want everybody to come out of this more consciously aware and having better communications among themselves, and maybe some of this narcissistic traits that people have been indulging in will be pushed aside for more interactive traits. And that's one of the keys to surviving a lockdown, is interacting and having somebody to talk to so that you don't lose your sanity. Big Herc, getting down fresh out.